Welcome to the Coach's Corner. Coach Clarence is an entrepreneur, financial expert, and passionate about helping people build and market their business. He has a creative flair for thinking outside the box and is always looking for the positive side of life. Now, here's Coach Clarence.
What's good, everybody? What is going on? No matter where you are in the universe, wishing you the best. I am here with George Sidarius. Did I say your last name right?
You did. You said it perfectly.
Perfect.
I am practiced. That was good.
Normally, when I get the name right, I'm starting off good.
That's it.
So let's just jump right into it.
Let's do it.
How about this? Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and we'll just run with it from there.
Yeah. So again, a lot to tell, a lot in my background. Essentially, we connected because the theme of your podcast, right? Fit over 40. I am about to turn 43. I've had a pretty crazy 42 years, I'm going to call it. 24 years old. I was diagnosed out of nowhere with stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So, that was, again, just think about, we're 20 years old. We think we're Superman, right? Nothing could ever come, I was a football player. I was like, all right, I got to essentially knock on the door. I thought it was my back, and doctor's like, no, we got to start chemo. So I did 6 months of chemo. I beat that. And then, I think my love for fitness, sort of really started then, because again, we're in high school, you played sports. That's kind of what everyone did. And then I had always, I'd always trained in the martial arts. So after that life altering time frame, I was like, I was in the financial services industry. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was like, I almost died. Like, let me do what I'm passionate about. So
right.
At that point, so I started training back in the martial arts, and I got into MMA, and I started kind of liking it. And there was an opportunity to buy into a school. And I was like, Mom, Dad, I'm doing this. Got me right in. I did that for 7 years, had the school. And that's really where, again, my love for training and fitness really started to kind of to take over. Had a couple cage fights, had the school, ran it for a little over 6 years. And then I was like, okay, getting a little older. We just turned 30. I'm like, I don't think I want to get punched in the face anymore for the rest of my life. So I decided to sell that. I decided to sell the school and then get back into the financial services business. So I did that. And then I got into the CrossFit world. I got introduced to that because I was kind of looking for, okay, what's next? I didn't want to fight, but I wanted that competitive environment. I just wanted to fight. I just wanted to get after it.
Yeah.
So I found CrossFit. And then I started doing that for 6 or 7 years. Again, never compete. I did local competitions.
Sure.
And kind of did it. And then recently, it started actually a friend in 2021 did the New York City Marathon. And I was like, I hate running, but I could do that. So a couple months later, so in February of 22, I did a half marathon that never did more than a 5K before.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, I'm going to put my name in the hat for the New York City Marathon. I got picked.
What?
So November. Yep. So November of 22, I go to do it. I didn't really train the right way because I didn't really know. I called my CrossFit coach. I was like, hey, can you help me? He was like, I don't know how to do this. Yeah, but it's like, we'll come up with something. So we did it. I wasn't eating the right way. I wasn't, I didn't really train for it. I finished. It took me 5 hours and 17 minutes. But then a couple months later, it was around April. I was like, you know what? I got to kind of redeem myself. I was like, let's really train for a marathon. Let's do it. So I contacted one of my clients and friends. I was like, hey, I need you to train me. She qualified for the Boston Marathon, elite level runner. And she was like, all right, let's do it. So I just completed a week and a half ago the Chicago Marathon. My goal was to do it in sub 4 hours. I did it in 3 hours and 54 minutes.
So let me ask you a question there.
Yep.
So are you still dealing with the cancer issue, or has that been resolved?
No, that's been resolved. I had a little scare after that initial, first round of chemo. I was doing training on a Saturday, and I went home and I started peeing blood.
Oh, yikes.
So I was like, okay, I don't think this is good. So
Yeah.
we ran multiple tests, which actually crazy is, and this was never really explained, but there were two doctors that actually, after seeing all the scans and all the tests, were like, all right, George, the cancer's back. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, it's in your kidneys.
Ooh,
Like,
that's
so
probably when you saw the blood. Yeah.
yeah. So they were like, because the only other thing it could be is an infection, but they're like, we ran all your blood levels and like there's no signs of infection. So they looked at all the scans. Two doctors bet their practice on it. They're like, George, this is the only thing that it could be. So what that would have meant was essentially a bone marrow transplant. I would have had to be in the hospital for a year. So we're getting ready. The doctor, my oncologist, was like, all right, Jordan, listen, let's just do this. He's like, I'm just going to give you this antibiotic. He's like, I want to just rule out anything. He goes, it's not going to do anything, but I just need to make sure before we put a needle in your kidney to make sure. So I'm like, all right, doc, I'm going to listen to you. You're the expert. We go back 10 days later. We do all the scans. Nothing is there on my kidney. It's gone.
Wow.
So no explanation.
So let's talk about that, because a lot of people in our age group, the over 40 crowd, are dealing with stuff like that. What was it like for you? Did you sit down and go, okay, I have this, here's how I'm gonna deal with it? How did you deal with that?
That's a great question, because I've done speaking engagements after, and I think really being able to reflect on it now, I think me being young helped because I didn't have anything, right? Like it was just me, right? Yes, I had my mom, my dad, my brothers, but I remember right after being diagnosed, I had one moment in my room where I cried. And I was like, all right, that's it. That's the only cry you get. We got to be mentally like, we got to get after this, because I had to be strong. I had to be strong for everyone else. Like my mom and dad, like I envision that now, like I have 3 little kids. That moment when they got that call saying, hey, your son has cancer, like just gives me chills on. I remember my mom screaming in the background, like when she heard that from the doctor. So it was just all about mindset, right? Just how do we get through it? Because the negative thoughts essentially do nothing. They don't help you get through it. So I think me being young helped me, but I would say for anyone now, we all know, right? I mean, it is everywhere. So I think having that strong mindset, if you do get that news, it's okay. Well, we have the experts in place. Here's what they're telling me to do. Let's go do what we have to do. Because again, the negative energy is only going to drain you, and you're already going to be drained depending on what kind of treatment you're getting and all those things. So like, we don't want to take away from that. We want to build that up. So yeah, it really starts up here. And that's what I would say. Anyone, when you hear that, yeah, it's that air going out of the balloon, and it's all right, that gut punch that we get, but you got to be able to flip that switch and get that frequency back up here and say, okay, well, here's what we have. Here's what, and almost think of it not, hey, well, if I'm not going to be here, thinking of it as, well, like I need to be here for these people, for my spouse, for my kids, for my grandkids, whoever that is. Like that's what I'm fighting for.
Yes, sir. That makes sense. I love it. And tell me how you parlayed that into your coaching, and what made you want to coach? I mean,
it's interesting. I've been in the financial services field for 15 years.
When you say financial services, like a financial planner, or
yes, yep, yeah. So everything from, again, when you think about advisor, it's everything that we do for, whether you're an individual, small business owner, we're handling everything from a finance perspective. So recently, I started working on just my own personal development. In 2020, it was the first time I started hiring a business coach. And I've had a coach since then. And I'm like, okay. And then this was more personal development. And I started getting into it. And I'm like, wow, I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm helping my clients from the financial aspect of it, but everything else ties in, right? If you want to be able to feel good and ask for a raise with your boss, well, you want to be confident. How do you get confident if your belly's hanging over your pants, right? And you don't, right? If you're, it just doesn't work. So I'm like, let me just help my community, my clients focus on all those areas, and then parlaying that into the relationship side of things. Like, I've learned so much from being a dad of 3, having, unfortunately, a failed relationship and the mistakes that I've made. I was like, well, if I can help people not make those mistakes, because if I had the coach that I had now 5 years ago, I wouldn't have made those mistakes.
Right.
But you got to learn, right? It's who you're around. And I just didn't know. I was a product of my environment. I say this all the time. My dad came over here when he was 8 years old from Europe on a boat. Like he just knew, hey, I'm going to go to work.
Yeah.
And my mom stayed home, and my mom and dad didn't do date night. My dad worked. He was in the restaurant business. Like, that's just what we grew up doing. So that's what I thought.
That's what you thought life was, right?
Right. And now I'm seeing all of these successful people, and they're like, no, you got to prioritize, right? You got to have that time with your spouse. And I'm like, okay, so if I can teach my kids, I can teach those other people that are in my world and really just coach them in every area. That's where this concept of F3, it's your family, right? Your relationships, your mindset, your fitness, and whatever it is, whatever you want to do. You want to go to the gym, you want to run, you want to do those things, and how your finances and how it all those 3 pillars kind of tie in together.
Absolutely. I call mine the triangle, with the basis being your health, finances, mindset.
Yep.
Because you can't have one without the other.
Can't do it. Yep.
For me, the mindset piece set in about maybe 10, 15 years ago. I started in the 90s. At first, it was just exercise and will and just do it. If you set out the program, they'll do it. When was the switch for you? How important mindset was as far as getting your clients to where they needed to be?
So I've always had, it's interesting. I always thought I had a strong mindset. It's crazy. Again, high school athlete, beat cancer, fought in the cage. I mean, you want to talk about literally, like, you're closing the door, that person across from you wants to kill you.
Right.
Right. You gotta be sort of tough there. And then I get into the CrossFit world, right? You're lifting, you're getting strong, you're competing. The mindset shift really came about 5 months ago.
Really?
I'm going to call it, coach, from this level to the next level. Because my coach helped me just start to realize that there were people in my world that were not doing anything for me and just bringing me down.
Sure. Absolutely.
The vices. Now, I didn't drink a lot, but I drank. And I would go to those vices, and I was feeling cloudy. And I'm like, hey, why aren't I getting to where I want to go? I'm like, okay, we started to cut that out. I was always an early riser. Now I'm an even earlier riser. So it was almost like instantly, I'm like, okay, I thought I was at a high level, and I wasn't. So my coach had me wake up every day at 4:30 when we started, cut out all the vices, 4:30.
Okay.
And then I started to kind of get into my routine, and then that 4:30 now changed to 4 a.m. Sometimes it's even 3:30.
Yeah.
And I don't feel tired. I have more energy now than I ever did, because my focus is now, I need to take care of me first and do everything that I need to do to get myself grounded and in the place that I need to be, so I can give myself to everyone else throughout the rest of the day.
So do you train in the morning?
Train in the morning. Now, sometimes depending on, again, when I was in marathon prep, there'd be morning lift. It might be afternoon or nighttime run. depending on, what the day looked like. Like here's an example. Saturday mornings were my long run. I get up at 3:30 in the morning, run for 2.5 hours, get back so I could have the day with my kids. People are like, "You're out of your mind." I was like, "I don't have a choice."
How far can you go in 2.5 hours?
So that would be, when I was doing my longer runs, that would probably be, the 15, 16, 18 mile, like those runs, somewhere like that. And I wasn't coming back just hanging out. I was coming back running around, my three little maniacs.
So this is interesting. I want to touch on that. A lot of people think when you're training for a marathon that you get up to the 27 miles, and you never do. You really get up to maybe 15, maybe 20, and then the rest is just your endurance.
Yeah. So So you never run the 26. The most we did in our prep was 20.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was it. And then the last 4 to 5 miles, that's all up here. And if you put in the work and prep the right way, like my last 5 miles were my best 5 miles of the entire race.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah.
Time wise. Yeah. Because I was like, hey, we've done this. We've done 5 miles so many times. Let's go rock and roll and get this done.
So was your cancer, which we know that basically cancer is brought on by lifestyle, but some of it is genetics, some of you're predisposed more so to certain cancers. How did you change what you were eating and lifestyle once you got the diagnosis?
Yeah. So it was interesting during that time. And yeah, I was the first one in my family to actually have it. Now, obviously there could have been other generations that had things that kind of brought it out. But essentially during treatment, it didn't really matter because I was just so depleted, like it didn't, again, you call it that. Essentially you get so skinny because you're so depleted from all the medication, all the chemo treatment. And then after that, it was crazy. I got really heavy because like after the treatment, I just started eating and then I put it all back on and I was trying to find my way in life. And I'll never forget, I walked into the martial arts school. I was 185 pounds. I was like a chubby, my cheeks were, huge. And I started training. My first 2 workouts, after the workouts, I went into the parking lot and I just threw up. Right? But then the weight started to come off, started to understand nutrition better. And then I really started to get more into the nutrition side of things when I got into the CrossFit space, because that was really where more of that was common, about understanding your macros, understanding how much. And so I've had multiple nutritionists that I've worked with in the past, understanding like what goes in, what goes out. And I've done a bunch of different variations of it. For me, it's all about just eating clean, right? That's really, and understanding what are we eating for, right? So if we want to look better, so like for my clients, we are looking at your macros. Right. Because again, if we want to build confidence, right, we want to feel good. We want to get rid of that fat, right? We don't want the belly, hanging. Like, I think of it this way. If you got your kids summertime in the pool, right? We're in Arizona, right? It's hot. Like, are you keeping your shirt on at the pool, or are you taking it off and your abs are popping out? Right. So like, if we're going to do that, that's what I want. I want that confidence. I don't want my clients to feel like they're embarrassed to take their shirt off in front of their kids.
Let me tell you, brother, there are a lot of dudes who fit that description who are not embarrassed to take their shirt off.
And maybe they're
proud of it. They're proud of their work.
But guess what? Like, I listen, and this might offend some people. Like, there's nothing of a dad bod, right? I mean, there's nothing like, right? I mean, it's just not how I'm wired. It's just not, what I want to do. But again, that doesn't mean that you need to just eat chicken and brown rice. Like, you need to understand the vegetables, what's coming in, and all those other things. And I do that. So it's really just understanding what good foods are we putting in our body. Hey, you want to have a steak at night. Well, okay, let's do that. But let's be mindful about what we're eating throughout the day, so we can enjoy that. Yeah, so we can enjoy that steak at night. So it's the balance. I mean, right now I'm back in kind of bulking mode. So I'm all about my coach is like, hey, we're going to eat all the carbs now. Let's get bigger. I'm like, all right, I'm loving life right now.
Do you still train MMA? I mean, as far as not in the ring, but do you still kind of use the modality like boxing and you do jujitsu?
So yeah, so it's interesting. So a couple of my clients are professional MMA fighters. I'm actually going in 2 weeks back to the gym, and they're like, come on, you haven't been here. So I'm actually going next 2 weeks from now to go train with them, hit the pads a little bit, hit the bag. I'm not getting in the cage with those guys. Like those guys are at a different level, but I do miss being able to hit something. I'm being honest, right? Like that being able to hit that. Also, hand-eye coordination, right? The fast twitch muscle fibers, right? When somebody's calling out the 1-2 to hitting that stuff, like I missed that. So I'm gonna get back into it. I'm gonna say you never know, because I might step on that mat 2 weeks from now and go, hey, you know what? Let's get another fight going.
So
you never know. You never know.
So you mentioned your family. Tell me about your family. Your wife. You have a couple kids.
Yeah. So ex-wife now,
Okay.
have 3 kids, 7-year-old, 4-year-old on Monday, the 23rd, just turning 4, and the little guy just turned 2. So 7, 4, and 2.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So they split time.
Yeah, we split time. We're in a good schedule now. It's every other weekend, and it's interesting, man. I get this question all the time. Do you feel like you spend more time with your kids now? And my answer is yes, because I remember when there was the 2 kids, I'd come home at 5 o'clock and be like, I'd always be on my phone.
Yeah.
Right, my ex would be like, you're always on your phone, right? You're always on your, I was like, I got to work.
Yes, sir.
And I'm like, well, I thought because I had to provide, right? I was like, hey, I got to keep working. I wasn't focusing on them. And now, because again, I'm up early, I'm doing all those things that I need to do. So when I get them during the week and that's my time with them, my phone's off to the side.
Yes, sir.
Right? Like on the weekends when I have them, and that's why like when I go on those long runs, I come back like it's me and them. So I didn't have time to be tired, and it didn't even matter. Like, it didn't even matter. People were like, George, how do you even do it? I'm like, I don't have a choice, right? They're mine. So it's interesting. My time with them is less, but it's more, because I can just focus on that little time with them and just making sure that I can be there. I can be present with them. We can do things. We can try, do activities, all those things together. So yeah, so time is split, but to me, it's the best time in the world because it's just me and them with no distractions.
So time being a big factor with a lot of the clients in our age group, how do you coach them to find that balance between work? Because we typically get either very successful CEOs, business people, and women, and then they're married, they go home, and then they know they need to be in shape. They know they need to be in the gym. How do you get them to find that balance?
So the first part is waking up earlier. And I think we can, I would probably say if anyone is at that executive, CEO, entrepreneur, they already know, like they get up early. It's just an innate quality. Like they're not sleeping until 7. What I think is important is we hear this all the time about this work-life balance.
Yeah.
It's total bullshit. In theory, it sounds good, but we know if you run a business, it's never 50-50. First of all, it can't be, because I need time for me.
Sure.
I need time for my family, and then I need time for my business. That's not 50-50. That's a third, right?
Exactly.
So I'm pretty decent at math, right? So I think what has to happen is, depending on what's going on, either in your family or in your business, the balance is going to shift depending on what's going on, right? Yeah. So if it's depending on, we'll use a tax professional as an example, right? We know beginning of February, right, till April 15th, that is total madness.
Right.
So
right.
There's no balance there,
no.
Right? The people in that industry, they call it blood money, right? Because it's literally like, so what balance do they have? They don't have any, but that's okay, because when April 15th is over, right, and all that stuff is done, now balance can shift. It can be like, okay, I'm going to go on vacation with my family. Maybe I've taken a little bit of a decline in my personal health, right? And my fitness. Now we can get back to it. So I think it's important to really just understand what's going on in your life and your business. If things are not okay in your relationship, all right, you know what? Maybe it's, I'm not going to work out 6 days a week. Maybe it's going to be 4, but those 4 days that I'm working out, I'm going hard.
Yes, sir.
And there's no right, and it's no distractions. I got this question the other day. It's, what's your go-to routine if you have no time? Well, it could be anything as long as you're focused in that time. Like you can do 50 burpees and your heart rate's going to get up to here. What's that going to take you? 5, 6, 7 minutes? So get after it. So I think it's really important that forget about this work-life balance that everything's going to be perfect. It's just understanding what's going on in your life. Is it just, we know right now there's a lot of things going on in the world, right?
Sure.
Right?
Actions like crazy.
Right. So much unknown, right? If your business is struggling and you need to put food on the table, well, guess what? Maybe that's having a conversation with your partner or spouse, whatever that looks like, and say, hey, listen, like, we're going to have our time together once a week, but those other nights, like I'm going to be in the office. I might come home, right? I'm going to come home for an hour. I'm going to put my phone down, be with the kids, but then I'm going to go back to the office because things are hard.
Right.
It might be tweaking. We know those are going to be the ebbs and flows of what's going on. But if we put all our time and effort into our business and our financial part of it, and you're not healthy, well, you're not going to live long enough to spend all the wealth that you think you're building.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have your family because they're going to go away and you're not going to be there to see them grow up and do all those things. So I think it's really important to stop. There's some people on the internet that are told, I mean, it's crazy, right? Hey, they've never built anything. They've never done anything and just telling you to have this balance. And it's honestly, it's total bullshit.
So one of the questions I love asking people is if you could tell your 20-year-old self something, what would you say?
Oh, man. Wow. I would say don't let anyone's opinions, objective, or anything like that sway you from what you want to do. And that's even when I say anyone, that's mom and dad, that's any friend, spouse, anyone, whoever that is, get in the way of what you want to do. If there is something that you want to do in this life, go and do it. Because when I was 20, if somebody told me that, I didn't know that 4 years later, I'd almost die. So I wish I had somebody in my ear telling me that then. I would also say, it doesn't matter if you're 40 right now, listening to this podcast going, man, how do I get in shape? I had somebody tell one of my best friends the other day, he wants to start a new business. And he's like, I'm just getting in my own way. And there are some factors. And I'm like, stop. Like, why are you letting those people derail you from what you want to do and what your purpose is?
Yeah.
That's it. Why are we doing that? So that's what I would say. Don't let anyone derail you from whatever that purpose is. Go after it as hard as you can. Because again, we're not guaranteed anything at any point in time. And I'm starting to, you would have thought I would have understood that at 24, but I think I was too young to understand it because I didn't have anything. I understand it now.
Obviously, as you have children and you have established a business, you make better decisions because you have a lot more to lose. So your thinking changes. I think that's all part of the shift. I used to hear all the time when I was younger, the age is 40 is the maturity. And it's just funny how your thought process now, I'll be 53 next week or 2 weeks, maybe less than that. And I just think about how I've changed in just the last 10 years, what I think about what's important.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a background like you in MMA. I do jujitsu and I box and do some things in martial arts. But just, well, I don't know how the traffic is in Jersey, but here someone's doing something crazy in traffic all the time.
Yeah.
You're constantly going, just let it go. Just
Yeah.
let it go. Because, I mean, you know what it is. You get out, you beat somebody up, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
Or heaven forbid you kill somebody. Now you got to deal with that shit. So it's it's tough. What are some non-physical stress things that you suggest to your clients?
So I read a lot now, a ton, and I was never a reader. I've read more books in the last 2 years than I did in my entire life.
I believe that. Yeah, I'm the same
Just,
way.
yeah, just started, and it's amazing what you start to fall in love with. Like, if you would have told me 5 years ago, hey, you're going to read every day, and I would have been like, nope, not me. I've fallen in love with that.
Yeah.
So every day, and not crazy amounts. Like, I'm still a very slow reader. My brother actually asked me that recently. He's like, do you read faster? And I'm like, no, I actually don't. But what I've done is I'll set a timer just because I want to have like the time allotted. But if I'm a few pages in and I get something that I can hold on to, I'll just stop right there because that was my study time for the day. I learned something. That was something new, and I'll take that. So reading is huge. Stretching almost every day, just about. Other things that I've done, just again, even like incorporated almost all the on a weekly basis. Cold showers, cold plunges.
Yeah.
So the cold plunge can be hard, right? If you don't have the space to do it. You do a couple minute cold shower morning and night. It's the same. It has the same benefits to sitting in the cold plunge.
Yeah.
So that's
I tell
one.
people, if you're taking a hot shower just towards the end of your shower, turn it down.
Same, yeah, and you don't have to go super, yeah, right. Even for like, just start to build to it, right? Don't get into that. So that's just huge for if you're feeling stressed, like just just calm you. It's crazy. You get used to it. It's so refreshing after, like, when you really like just get your body used to it. So that's one. Another one, and then I also do acupuncture.
Oh wow. Okay.
Acupuncture for me has been, I've done this for probably about 6 years now. There is so much calmness that comes when the needles are in. It's a dark room. You got 20, 30 minutes where you can just literally relax. And it's done so much for my body, just my overall mental and nervous perspective. Yeah. So those are big. The reading, right? Blocking that time out. The other thing that I do, the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I journal.
Love it. Love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Big one. That before, right. It's right. Pick up the phone. It's so, hey, I want to go look on social media. None of that stuff. And what I do, Clarence, is I'll journal about something that I regret from the day before.
I love that.
So whatever it is, it could be maybe bad mindset during something. Maybe it's, hey, I got a little frustrated with my kids right at some point. It could be, hey, I didn't give enough attention to XYZ. And the thinking is, I want to just journal that because I want that ingrained in me to try to release that mindset so that hopefully it doesn't happen again, right? Like that's sort of where, my thinking is there. I want to journal that, whatever that regret is. So I almost remove it from my mindset. It doesn't happen all the time. There's things that are going to keep coming in there, but I do that first thing in the morning, right when I get up.
I do something similar, but I have clients do 5-10 minutes of what are the wins for the day, what were the losses, or not really losses per se, but things that didn't get accomplished.
Yep.
And those kind of carry over to the next day with I call it the get shit done list. You roll that over and you get it.
Yeah,
also, people
the wins are important, man. We got to stacking that, right? And all right, people ask me, hey, why do you get up so early? I'm like, well, by the time I get into the office at 10, right, whatever time it is, I got 15 wins.
Yes.
So if something goes wrong during the day and it's 1, I'm still up 15-1. I won.
Yeah.
And
Another thing I have people do is let if they have they're upset with somebody, whether a spouse or relative, to let that go, because you go to bed with that energy and it's negative. And I tell people it's almost like cancer, you're carrying a grudge. And that's really hard to do because we take things personally just by nature when especially if it's somebody close to us that we, felt a certain kind of way about, and then they do something that offends us or hurts us. It's hard to let that go, but it's important to let it go.
Yeah, what I've done not only for myself and started doing this, and then for my clients, is when we have those negative, those bad interactions, we want to send that person love. So what my mindset goes, right, if I'm missing someone, something happened, it's, you know what, I'm going to send that person love. Let's think about the good, right? When I had a bad day or I'm missing someone, I'm feeling lonely, let's send that person love, because we feel love, we're at the highest frequency. So I'll just say, hey, you know what, man, I'm thinking about you. Really enjoyed all the time we spent together, right? I know we had a bad day, but I love when we did X, Y, and Z. It puts me into that moment. We had a good moment, and then I'm good. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned macros. Do you have an eating philosophy, or do you just treat everybody individually?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be a certified nutritionist and get into the details of that. Because again, like, to me, my focus is, right, just overall personal development, and my expertise does come in the financial world. Like, that's where my licensing is. I'm not going to claim to be a nutritionist, but I understand about eating good stuff, right? What are we taking in? Right? How do we start to do those things? So yeah, so we're not getting into the details, right? If we need to seek a doctor or seek expertise, we're going to go to that person, right? Like, I feel like people they almost overcomplicate it, right? It's
right.
How do I count my macro? It's not that hard. Get a food scale on Amazon. It's $9.99. Buy some chicken, we overcomplicate everything. Right. Exactly. It's how do I turn the dumbbell when I'm going to do, really? You're 75 pounds overweight. It doesn't matter.
Just lift it up.
Just do something, go walk. Right. So I'm not going to claim to be any sports nutrition or any of that stuff. Like, that's not going to be what we're going to do. We'll talk about it. If someone does come to me that has, again, medical conditions, I'll literally go out to my network and go, okay, I need to connect the both of you, and then we'll do it all together. I'm not going to be the expert in that area.
And that's interesting that you say that, because I believe that's why a lot of people never get started, because they're overthinking it. Well, geez, what do I do? What time day? Or they'll come to me and go, look, I got these 6 days, I'm gonna hit it hard. I go, no, you're not. You're not going to hit 6 days hard if you've been sedentary for the last 10, 15 years. If you get 1 day in, I'll be happy. That's 1 day more than you were doing before. Let's just build on that.
Do you get this one?
What diet plan?
Yeah. Huh? Do you get this one? Should I eat white rice or brown rice? You could Google it. There's people that lose weight eating all white rice. There's people that lose weight eating all brown rice. Yes. How about you eat that and not the cheeseburger and fries? Pick one, right? Like that's what I'm saying. Like, you can get the internet is so good, but it can be so bad sometimes, because like, you're just going to go in that rabbit hole. Like, oh my God, this person said I shouldn't eat this, or I shouldn't eat before bed. If you saw what I ate 7 minutes before I went into bed, like, it doesn't matter. Like, are you active? What are we doing? What's the goal? Yeah. So that one, that's hey, I'm going to work out. I haven't done anything. Now I'm going to work out 6 days. No, you're not.
Yeah. And it's not necessary too. I think there's belief that you got to go balls to the walls. A lot of people are following these people on the internet, and they're looking at what they do or they claim to do, and they think that's what I got to do. And that also sidelines a bunch of people, because they know inherently, I can't do that. This guy runs 20 miles a day. This guy is lifting all his weights. I just want something simple. And that's what I try to do with my clients. I say, let's just take a step back. First of all, what do you like to do? Do you like to shoot basketball? Do you like golf? You like to walk your dogs? Let's find something that you think you can do and let's build on that,
Absolutely. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because it's complicated. Like you said, the internet is great, but you got to be able to find data and you got to understand research and what is just out there that's emotionally triggering you.
Yeah.
So that's that mindset.
Yeah, and it's the same thing on the finance side too. I mean, I get people all the time. Hey, I saw this on TikTok and Instagram on how you could not pay taxes. I'm like, please stop. Like, I just
there's a whole bunch of those.
Oh man, it's bad. It's bad, and people are getting ripped off. It's bad. But again, like you just don't know. Yeah, so that's literally what I'm trying to fight up against every day.
How do I not pay my taxes?
How do I not pay taxes? You have to. Yeah, how about that?
You got to start. Exactly. Yep. That's crazy. Yep. So let's fast forward 10 years. You're my age now. What do you see George in the world? Who will you be known as?
So I think it is, and it's interesting because I've done so much reflecting now and just like where my life has been just over the last couple of years and the things that I've gone through personally. I think I want to be seen as someone that has built something successful, essentially with no one handing anything to him, and has overcome a lot.
Yeah.
And that's really where, and it's hit me more and more with my kids starting to get older, is really say, hey, you know what? Dad's made some mistakes, but those mistakes and mistakes that anyone has made do not dictate the rest of your life.
Right.
Whatever it is, whether you went to jail, right? Divorce, whatever it is, those things do not dictate the trajectory of the rest of your life. They don't. So ultimately, I want to continue to help my clients. I want to be able to show my kids that, hey, Dad built this and has already built a business and is just trying to help even more people, teaching them and having them understand that life is not going to be easy. No one's going to hand you anything. Like, you want something, you got to go to work for it.
Yeah.
So that's it from the business side of things. And then I want to just continue just to give back more. I kind of lost that a little bit. And I don't know where that's going to take me on my fitness journey. This new running thing is kind of like, it's weird, man. I'm like, all right, like where can we go with this?
Well, you can go to the ultra marathons and run 100 miles.
So yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So I just did that. I signed up yesterday for doing a half marathon in Philadelphia, because it's a cool city, next month. And then I have the Boston Marathon in April.
Okay. Wow.
And so what's cool about it is that for all of these organizations, I'm partnering with a charity for all of them. So for me, it's how can I give back? So I just raised for Chicago for the American Cancer Society. It was $3,500 raised there. For Boston, I'm looking to raise $10,000 for a cancer organization. I'm waiting to just be partnered up, but I have my spot. I'm waiting to just do that. Doing the American Cancer Society again next year. So for me, it's, hey, can I essentially pay to torture myself, right? And be able to give back and really just do something, and I want to just tell my story, right? Because there's people that have gone through a lot of stuff in their life and just been like, man, I got to give up. And to me, that's total bullshit.
Yeah.
It's easy to give up. It's easy to say, wow, like I've had all of this stuff happen to me. I'm just going to cry whoa and not do anything.
Right.
Compared to me, when it's like, all right, you know what? We've been through the hardest things, and we're doing the hardest things, and we're coming out that other side. Like, I almost want to be like, hey, what else you got for me? Because like now I'm ready. So 10 years from now, I just see myself in a better version of where I am literally today was on October 20th.
Gotcha. Do we see a book in the future? TED Talk? Any plans of that? You got a story, man. You got to tell it. Obviously, podcasting, you can do that, but do you plan on writing a book, which is
it's I actually started a year and a half ago.
Okay.
I started a year and a half ago, and it was in the time when I was still a little bit lost in some of my journey.
Okay.
And I kind of put a halt to it. I think we're ready now.
All right.
I think we're ready now. And I had someone recently go, "Hey, whenever you're ready, let's do it." And I'm like, "Okay, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready." This last accomplishment for me running this marathon was, I think for me, was the transformation. Like when I said at the beginning of that time period, I'm cutting out everything.
Yeah.
That flipped the switch. And there were times all throughout training, like those hard training days, where I would just be in that, if I had 18 miles to go, I was at mile 15. I'm like, all right, brother, we got to flip that switch. At mile 21 of the marathon, I was like, okay, let's flip that switch. I flipped it. I crossed that finish line. I broke into tears. I called my kids. I was in tears because I was like, holy shit. I didn't even really know what my time was. I didn't know if my watch was right, but I had people texting me because they were tracking me and they were like, holy shit, you did it.
Yeah.
So that flip, right? That switch got flipped on that time in this training. Now it's nothing. I can't not do anything that I put my mind to. So
that's true.
So I don't know now. Maybe it is an ultra at some point. Maybe it is an Ironman at some point. I don't know. To me, I can really do whatever I put my mind to at this point. So the book, I think it's the right time for the book, given just where I am and what I'm about to embark on. And it just could be the beginning of the journey to get things started.
Gotcha. So where can people find you if they want to follow you, maybe get some coaching or?
Yeah. So everything. Yeah. So everything on social media, Instagram page is at G Siderius, first initial, last name, GSIDERIAS. And I'm sure you're going to post it on your page. So I'll be tagged there. And then first and last name on my Facebook. That's pretty much where all my content goes.
Got it. All right.
And you'll be able to see. So I have the two websites. I have my coaching website, which is the overarching for coaching. And then just because of compliance and my licensing, then I have my financial services business, which is essentially my sister company, where everything kind of flows through there. So they're all intertwined, but they have to be separate just because of my compliance and all my license.
I'm the same way because I do mortgages and
so
page is just for mortgage and credit stuff, and then I have my fitness one. So and for me, my compliance is 1,000 times even more. Like I can't wipe my nose without them going like, hey, why are you using that type of tissue and not this one? Yeah. So it's all part of it, but yeah, I'll put all that stuff when we post it out there on social media. Sounds good, my friend. Well, I appreciate your time, and I'm glad this worked because if I would have jumped on at one, you would have been long gone by then.
I might have been on my second run of the day. Yeah. So I appreciate that, my man. Again, happy to be able to connect and look forward to doing stuff in the future, bro.
Absolutely. Take care, my friend.
All right, man. Talk soon, bro.
Bye-bye.